Woman to Wolfwoman. I don't know how I became a werewolf. Dear Scary Stories NYC. I've been scouring the internet for the past few months, trying to understand how I became a werewolf and why I transform at night into a dangerous creature that's neither human nor dog. I wasn't bitten by a wolf. I've never seen a dogman or werewolf in my life, and I don't know what to do about any of this. Almost none of my friends or family even believe me when I say that I've become a wolf woman. But even fewer believe me when I say that I don't understand why this is happening. One person even told me that not knowing how you became a werewolf is as unlikely as not understanding how you got pregnant. It's pretty much nearly impossible. But that's what's happened to me. I found a story on your channel about someone transforming after exposure to some kind of germ or illness, I forget. So I'm sending my story to you in hopes that it might help me find some answers. Now, even though I'm keeping all this anonymous, I do ask that you show your attractive brunette actress in the beginning and say that's me. I mean to say, show her dressed up to go dancing or something, because before this all started, that's who I was. I mean, I wasn't as beautiful as that actress you use, but I was that type. Fit and fashionable, with curly dark hair. I was fairly good at my job, but I got told I was great at it because of how I looked. And back then, I looked nice all the time. How do I know this was why I got special treatment? Because once this werewolf thing happened, it got a lot harder for me to glam myself up in the morning. I stopped getting special treatment when that happened. Not just from the guys, but from other women as well, believe it or not. And that taught me a lot about what my bosses actually value in my performance. And that is how I look while performing it and little else. Well, and nothing else. But this is not a story about me griping about workplace issues. This is the story of how I inexplicably found myself changed from the normal human being I always was into the mutant thing I am now. Everything started when a coworker gave me a thumb drive from a client, and I left it there at the office, forgetting to transfer the contents to my laptop hard drive first. I got all the way home before realizing I had forgotten it, and it was going to be 5 days before I was scheduled to come back into the building. I got on my cell and called my boss, who was still in. He told me to rush back and get the thumb drive before he left the office for a few days himself. Well, it had just been raining, so I threw on some jeans and an army jacket and I jogged downtown from my apartment to get that errand done. It was on the walk back home when things started to get really crazy. There was a carnival set up on one of the streets near the office, so I decided to walk through that on the way home. They had cotton candy. They had booths where you could try to hit things with balls or whatever. And they had some rides, including a Ferris wheel. I was impressed at how much stuff they packed into the 3-block-long run of the temporary carnival. And I wandered into the central block of it, and the middle of the crowd, before I noticed that I was starting to ache all over. I was feeling something that reminded me of my mother telling me the baby was kicking when she was carrying my younger sister in her belly. But soon I was feeling like something was inside of me kicking in my arms and my legs and my head, just as much as in my belly. I didn't know what was happening to me, but it was both painful and incredibly weird and uncomfortable feeling. I stopped a random stranger and asked them what was wrong with me. It was a nonsensical question. I was having difficulty formulating thought. He gave me a look that said I was more than crazy. And I looked around for a mirror in my purse, spilling the contents all over the place, including the thumb drive I had gone to work to get. My makeup mirror shattered on the cobblestone street. But in the broken shards, I saw myself transforming into something entirely different, right there on the street. First, I noticed the end of my nose was reddening, which terrified me, as I had no history of skin conditions, and this seemed to be a severe one. My mind jumped immediately to some extreme kinds of illnesses, and I began to panic. When I turned my gaze away from the tiny broken mirrors on the pavement, I caught a reflection of myself in a store window, and that was the first time I noticed the ears. The dog ears, up on top of my head. I reached up and felt them, and I screamed. Not only could I feel the ears with my fingertips, but I could feel my fingertips with my ears. My ears. My actual real ears, which could hear so much more than my old ears used to be able to. I must be drugged. That was my first thought. It made more sense to me than to think that I had really grown super sensitive dog or cat ears up on top of my head. When some strange kid laughed at me and said I had cat ears on top of my head, I wondered if I was hallucinating that kid too. I walked closer to him, staring at him to see if he was real, and the kid screamed as I approached. He ran away, either in reality or in my imagination. The next time I caught my own reflection, I screamed as loudly as that kid just had. The raw red end of my nose was now pure black, like it had rotted and was gonna fall off. I touched it, but it felt fine, although leathery, like the end of a dog's nose. It was actually a relief that it hadn't rotted. I wasn't turning into a zombie. But what was I turning into? I stopped being able to think, as a pain gripped my jaws, like all my teeth were having toothaches, all at one time together. It hurt so badly that it became hard to even remember who I was. The only thing left in my mind was that I wanted to understand what was happening. I got myself in front of a dark reflective store window, and I opened my mouth to reveal something out of an old horror movie. I had fangs. I had some kind of long monster teeth like it was Halloween, only these weren't plastic and glow in the dark. These seemed to be my own real teeth. But where did my old regular teeth go to? I looked around on the street. I didn't see teeth. Then I couldn't remember what I was even looking for, as another change overtook me, forcing me to just cope with the changes that I had no control over. Thunder and lightning frightened and confused me, as though I didn't know what they were. In fact, I kept internally reminding myself that it was just thunder, and yet that only got me more nervous inside. I couldn't explain it then, but now of course we all know it was me becoming an animal. I have to ask, why would this be happening to me? I looked around and nobody else was having the problems I was. It wasn't like a zombie outbreak of werewolves, it was only me. But I'd never had any reason to think I might be a victim of lycanthropy. I started to wonder if I might be descended from a line of werewolves, that maybe this could be an inherited condition. I speed dialed my mother, but when she picked up, I couldn't actually form words any longer. I've heard stories on your and other channels of dogmen or werewolves speaking English, and I would like to know how that could be. I was still in the middle of the transformation, and my snout was still not fully extended. Yet all I could do was make pathetic animal noises into my phone and get my mother all frightened. I decided I should shoot video of myself, partially so that I could see the transformation, and partially so that I could prove it happened later on. but I found my furry clawed fingertips did not correctly operate the touchscreen. I couldn't get the thing to work, and in a rage, I threw my phone into a brick wall. Trust me, that was very out of character, as normally I treat my phone better than I've ever treated any boyfriend. And I've treated all of them very well. I've treated most of them very well. The remaining few we shall not discuss. I can't really have boyfriends anymore. It's sort of a time-consuming thing. Plus, most guys who are into women are not into ones with dog faces. I'm making jokes because this is a sore subject I'd rather skip over quickly. I have met guys who say they're into werewolf girls, but not many of them are still saying that after a few little love bites. Where are the real men these days? Probably dating human women, that's where. All jokes aside, I had just thrown my phone into a wall. I was unable to speak using my mouth. I was unable to use a touch screen with my clawed paw-like hands. And I was panicking and howling, hoping that someone would come and help me. But how could they help me? What could they do? How could I help myself? I was becoming some kind of a monster, and I didn't know when or where it was gonna stop. Like, would it be only my body becoming furry and my face elongating and growing fangs, or would it continue changing until I was a four-legged creature crawling around on the ground? And after this all happened, would I ever change back? And would it be within a few hours? A few days? A few years? My mother has since told me that she knows of no werewolf stories from either side of our family. But I already guessed that by how surprised she was by my weird animal sound phone call. If this ran in the family, she'd have probably been waiting for that call to one day come. As the fur grew on my face, my worldview started to alter. My eyes must have been changing as well, because I felt that the world was so much brighter and more detailed than before. I could smell people walking past me, something I had never done before. It seemed so normal, though, that I wondered if I had always been doing it, but just not making conscious note of it. There were a lot of heightened sensations like that when I became a werewolf for the first time, and they all felt like déjà vu. They felt a bit like a homecoming, or a return to a place that I knew well in some manner. Explain that part of it to me, if you can, because I can't. I went from being ignored on the street, as I needed help from people, to being screamed at and run from, once the transformation progressed further. Rather than wanting their help, I was starting to see these people as ants or worms all around me. I didn't want to hurt them, but I found them to be a nuisance and a bother. I wanted them to go away, and I felt good inside when they got scared and ran from me. At some point I caught a glimpse of a monster in a store window, and I bluff charged it, roaring in its direction. I was surprised when the monster did the same thing as me, and that was because it was my own reflection. I walked up more closely to that reflection, and I saw that my eyes were now glowing in a strange and unnatural way, and that I was not a human being any longer. I ran from where I was, leaping over screaming people and past them, heading toward the woods outside of town. I leaped up on top of a police car, and I surfed the flashing lights on top as the long arm of the law drove me to where I wanted to go. When traffic slowed, I got out and leaped from car roof to car roof, landing off on the side of the road and running into the woods. From that point, I began to hear howling, and I found myself howling back. I was being directed, and I was being called. I knew how to follow these calls, but I don't when I wake back up into human life. I lack instincts when I'm in this form. In the werewolf world, everything is the same as in the world of wild dogs. This means it's about status, and mine is low. Those of you dreaming of being werewolves should hope that you will arrive in this world with an important relative or a benefactor, because I know what it's like if you don't. If I only knew why this was happening, it might at least make sense. I have lost faith in the human world because I'm so erratic now, and my sense of beauty is dead and gone. It's even worse when I'm a wolfwoman. I'm thinking now that I should leave the pack and become a female lone wolf. I'm thinking that now when I'm in my human form. When I become the she-wolf, I seem too concerned with what the big dogs think. I probably could survive on my own just fine, but I don't have the inclination to even try to do so when I'm in the animal form. It just doesn't seem a priority any longer. I'm extremely disappointed in my other self. I thought werewolves were badass and unafraid of anything. Turns out I am unafraid of people, but I'm way too eager to please the other dogmen, at least in my own opinion. My mother says I should lock myself up when it comes time to change, so that I don't go see the other werewolves in the woods. I'm afraid that if I did that, I'd tear up my apartment, scare my neighbors, and it's possible my howling could draw an entire pack of adult werewolves to my apartment complex. That would be a less than ideal development for me and my neighbors. It's a good idea, but I would need the right location to tie myself down in. And my mother is certainly not suggesting I do it at her place. So my life is teetering on the brink. I feel like I'm about to tip over into the abyss, I really do. A few more late payments, and I might be living in my mother's basement whether I like it or not. Or maybe that would be too dangerous for her. Maybe I might end up homeless. And it might happen soon. Certainly not something to look forward to. If only I could understand how this started and why this is happening. Maybe then I could begin to put together a plan to get out of this situation that I got myself into. Or someone got me into. Or something. Some act of fate? Could I have been poisoned? I hadn't dated anyone for 3 months prior to the transformation, so it was not any sort of bodily fluid exchange that caused it. I am honestly at a loss to explain, just as I'm at a loss to pay my bills lately. If anyone in your audience has any idea what might be happening to me, please ask them to leave a comment, and I will read them when I'm in human form. Thanks for considering running my story, and good luck to you and your channel. She's been the EP 2 times in the last 4 days. Welcome our newest channel member. I'm talking about Angie K. Please join me in welcoming Angie K to our channel memberships. Now Angie gets to see our weekly secret uncensored Dogman stories, as well as our over 25 hours of archived scary Dogman stories too. And we know when she's seen them, because Angie's always great about leaving a comment, which is one of the ways you can help the channel out a lot. Thanks Angie, and welcome aboard. Another way you can help out is by picking up some of our merch, such as our brand new Dogman 2023 mug, a link in the description. You can get 10% off this or any item in the store for the next month by using the discount code DOGMAN23 when checking out. And here to tell you about other cool ways to get more involved in the channel is our international TV spokesmongrel, Henry Lee Dogman. Hank? Thanks, Biggie. And thanks to all of you for watching this far. If you liked it, please click like. If you'd like to see more of our work, please subscribe. And also click that bell icon if you'd like to be notified when we put out a new episode. To become an executive producer, you can donate to us through the thanks button under each of our videos or through our paypal.me/PeterBernard209 page. To receive cool perks like secret uncensored Dogman episodes far too wild to ever run on this channel, you can become a YouTube channel member by clicking the join button, or join our PayPal subscribers club at peterbernard.com. Joining either at the $3 a month level or above gets you access to our over 25 hours of secret uncensored Dogman stories available nowhere else. Do you have a scary story about Dogman or some other kind of high strangeness that happened to you? Let us know by emailing us at scarystoriesnyc@gmail.com or by leaving us a voicemail message at 804-LA-SCARY. You may need to call back on that one. It cuts off after, I think, 3 minutes. And if you don't want to do any of that stuff, thank you for simply watching to the end. Good night, and have a scary tomorrow.
Come back for more scary stories.